Guys, it's another good day to talk about Bitcoin. Let's see what has happened over the last few days and over the last day. So Bitcoin is of course in a bear market, right? We know that we are about to enter the last phase of the bear market, which we are in now, expected to be around about October of this year. Let's compare this bear market to the last bear market. We are very much in the last phase here. July, usually very bullish for Bitcoin. We see last July was bullish, and then August, September, bearish. We formed the end of the bear market. Even 2018, the bear market before that, July bullish, August, September, bearish, going into October, finding that bottom of the bear market, big flush out coming, and that's what I expect to be happening this bear market in the upcoming 2 months as well. We are now looking to be breaking out to the upside slightly, potentially retesting the $69,000 to $70,000 region. Now, if I show you guys this is the 21 weekly moving average, and we can see that historically it has actually acted as somewhat resistance. So in the last bear market, we can see that Bitcoin has almost retraced all the way. It has almost gone all the way to the 21 weekly moving average line before having that big correction to the downside. And even the bear market before that, look at this. In July, which is basically exactly where we are right now, towards the end of July, beginning of August, we retested the 21 weekly moving average line and then continued the downside, big flush out, and the same thing I expect to be happening this time again. Have a look. The 21 weekly moving average line is currently at approximately $69,800 to $70,000. Now, I expect us to be going there, retesting this, and then moving to the downside. So basically, history does repeat in some ways. And if you look at the funding rates for Bitcoin, we can see they're mostly positive right now. Now, positive funding rates, of course, mean that most people are bullish, most people are having long positions open right now and believe that the price continues to go higher. I think that if the funding rates are positive, for me, that is a negative sign. We can see that historically, whenever funding rates are very positive, Bitcoin does go down. Whenever funding rates are negative, basically, whatever people are thinking is the direction, we usually go in the other direction. Right here, you can see funding rates were very negative and Bitcoin went up. Right now, funding rates are very positive. The majority of the market has a sentiment that we're basically going higher for Bitcoin, which yes, we can do until 70,000, which I just discussed. And also basically until the November 2021 all-time high, which sits at like $69,000, which is almost coinciding perfectly with the 21 weekly, which I just discussed, right? They both coincide perfectly at around about $69,000, which is where I think we can be going next for Bitcoin. If I zoom in a bit more, and let me remove the 21 weekly, we can see that Bitcoin basically broke out of our falling wedge pattern. This usually breaks up to the upside, and we did so. And now we're finding new support alongside this trade line. We have 3 points of contact here, and we're having some upwards movement in price. I think we're gonna go into this region, which I already discussed. Now, let me show you the liquidation heat map on the yearly actually. I have not shown this before, but on the yearly, we can see basically that the majority of liquidation now lies above us. We have not that much liquidity left below us, and this is of course a target. We usually grab that liquidity, and you can see the bottom range of the liquidity sits at approximately $47,000. Now, if I go back to Bitcoin on the weekly, and I put on these moving averages, so this is the 200, the 300, and the 350 weekly moving average line, we can see that Bitcoin usually finds a bottom somewhere on these lines. So 2 bear markets ago, we went to the 200 weekly moving average. Then during COVID, we went all the way to the 300 weekly moving average line. Last bear market, we went actually all the way to the 350 weekly moving average line. And I think history can repeat. So we can potentially go again to the 350 weekly moving average line, which also sits at approximately $48,000. So very much in line with the bottom of the liquidity heat map at about $47,000, $48,000. I think that could be happening, but these are basically my levels to look out for. Let me remove the moving average lines. I think either we go to here, $52,000 in October, which is basically the bottom of this trading range, or if we have the big capitulation event, which we have had in the past, we could go to the low 40s, like $42,000, which you can see is also an area where we have been trading on before. And that all depends what happens over the next few weeks, next 2 months for Bitcoin. Now, this is another thing I want to show you guys. This is the Bitcoin death cross. And basically it is the 50 weekly moving average line and also the 200 weekly moving average line. And whenever they cross, we can see basically a trend reversal. So in the last bear market, right, whenever the 50 weekly moving average goes above the 200 weekly moving average line, we are basically confirming a bullish trend. We're confirming a trend reversal. We're going bullish, and it is a delayed indicator. Yes, you can see it actually crossed bullish after the bottom of the bear market, but it's a good indicator to see, okay, we're now in a bull market. As long as the 50 moving average is above the 200, we're basically in a bull market. And as long as we can see, as long as we can see that the 50 moving average is below the 200 weekly, we're in a bear market, right? If you go to the last bear market, same thing essentially. The moment the 50 moved above the 200 weekly, we went into a bull market. And as long as we are below, we're in a bear market. And right now, the 50 weekly moving is still below the 200 weekly moving average line. So another factor to consider that we are still in a bear market. And keep in mind, if I go to Bitcoin on the monthly here, we can see that we usually go up for 1,065 days, for 3 years, and then we usually go down for approximately 1 year in a bear market, which again should bring us to approximately October. So that's really the date I am looking for Bitcoin. And next thing I want to discuss is, of course, that yes, July, we're almost up 10% for July right now. And July is very bullish overall, historically for Bitcoin. However, the next 2 months, August and September, are historically very weak. And they're usually the 2 weakest months for Bitcoin. And I expect that to be happening. July pump, going into that $70,000 region, and then eventually have that resistance here around $70,000, around about the 21 weekly moving average, around about the November 2021 all-time high, which I just discussed. And then we go down, break down from this previous support at like $58,000, which we had, and we go down into October further to the downside. Now let's quickly discuss the spot Bitcoin ETFs, which got approved actually. And this was of course a major bullish sentiment, right? We had big bullish news. Bitcoin ETFs were approved on spot, and this happened on January 11, 2024. Let's see what happened on January 11, 2024. Well, we can see that 2024 January 11 is approximately here. So this was basically the big, like an up move, right? After this news that came out, we had a big push to the upside, very bullish, people very bullish on Bitcoin. And what am I anticipating next? Well, the next big thing to come is the Clarity Act, which could be approved very soon. So the Clarity Act has to be approved before August 7th. After that, the Senate is going into its summer break. And if it does get approved, that could be a massive bullish news. And we could be nearing the end of this bear market. Of course, this keeps getting delayed, but we are all waiting for the Clarity Act to be approved. That will be very good news for Bitcoin. And if it coincides with the bottom of the bear market, this could then spark the beginning of that next bull market, which we are all expecting. And finally, let's have a look quickly at Ethereum. I don't usually discuss it very often, but this is basically showing us the Ethereum logarithmic regression band. So we can see over time, Ethereum is becoming less and less volatile. We have the same chart for Bitcoin also, and it's trading within this range. And right now we're basically at support levels, right? Historical support levels, which in this regression band we've been trading in. So Ethereum is definitely a good buy. However, I think if Bitcoin has the next big breakdown in the next 2 months, Ethereum could also go down and retest these previous lows all the way where we had the low right here, which sits at approximately $1,000. So I think the best thing to do right now is wait a bit more, wait for Bitcoin to break down below $60,000, and then potentially you could be going into Ethereum as well. And we could be going back above towards like $4,000 for Ethereum. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoyed it. See you tomorrow and bye.